In this Dragon's Dogma 2 video, we're going to be talking about equip weight, stamina, how to manage these things in order to make your gameplay experience better. Something I brought up before the game came out was that people were going to have to come up with strategies in order to manage their inventory and their carry weight and stamina, or they're going to have a rough time in this game, and I want to go through in this video some very exact tips to help you with this aspect in hopes that it will make you enjoy your game more. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what is essential to bring along with you, and the first thing is one camp supplies. You don't go through camp supplies very quickly. It's not like a one-off thing in this game, and you can use one camp kit for a good stretch of the game. These things are extremely heavy, so I don't recommend bringing more than one. There is a chance you might get interrupted while you're sleeping and attacked, and you might lose your camp supplies. But this is very rare in my experience, and you can always go grab another one. If you have extra camp supplies, I recommend storing them because you will need more than one throughout your game, and there's no reason to sell it and then rebuy it. And also, make sure you store your camp supplies on like one of your pawns instead of yourself if you tend to be picking up a lot of things. That way it's not bogging you down with its carry weight and your pawns can deal with it. And something that doesn't help with your stamina recovery but actually helps with the amount of stamina you consume while you're doing things is cooking at campfires. This makes it so your stamina gets reduced less as you do things. And it's not really stamina recovery, but it kind of operates similarly and makes your stamina go further so that you're not running out as much. Additionally, you should bring along a Dragon's Gaze in order to find Wakestone shards to make that easier for you, unless you have the detection augment. If you have the detection augment, you probably don't need this. And for your lamp, you only need to bring along like 1 or 2 oils. Odds are you'll be back to town before you go through 2 for sure, 1 probably. So don't bring more than that, otherwise you're adding excess weight to yourself. You don't run out of oil very regularly. And when it comes to consumables, make sure you have some healing consumables. I like to have like 3 or 4. Just for like an emergency in case I like run out of health, because you can actually heal yourself while your health bar is at 0 for a few seconds. That way I don't die a lot of times. But generally speaking, you don't want to have a ton of healing consumables if you have a mage in your party. If you don't have a mage, which you really should, then you will have to bring more consumables along. And keep in mind that roborants are very light, so they're a very good way to reduce weight if you want to bring them over like potions or something like that. And again, if you don't have a mage in your party, having a detoxification potion is kind of a must in case you get poisoned, because this thing lasts forever and it's a pain in the butt. You basically have to go rest to get rid of it if you don't have a detoxification potion, so that's one I would recommend at least having 1 of. And if you are playing a mage, having a soothing brew in your inventory is good. This will cure silence. Silence is about the most annoying thing that a mage has to deal with. If you're playing a sorcerer, odds are you have a mage in your party that can get rid of this for you. But if you're playing a mage, you're the one who's going to have to get rid of it. So you can't cast a spell if you're already silenced. Other than that, I usually bring along 2 or 3 Ferrystones, so I have enough to get to point A and back again. And I will bring along like 2 or 3 Wakestones mostly in case an NPC dies when I'm trying to do a quest. I don't normally need to use this on myself. Most of the time I just reload because I made some stupid mistake. But you don't need to like weigh yourself down like 10 or 20 of these or something like that. Just stash them in your bank and bring like 2 or 3. And also don't carry excess armor and weapons in your inventory. Like if you have a vocation that you're playing and you have armor that you're equipped, you have extra rings, just stick it all in your bank. Like anything you're not needing, stick it in your bank. If you feel like you want to swap later, go back to town and then swap and then go out. But don't bring all this stuff thinking, oh, what if I want to try something on the fly? Just keep it stashed for now and then worry about it later. And another thing is if you're playing like an archer, don't bring like 100 of each arrow type and just wonder why you're like very heavy. You're going to have those things weigh, something each arrow. So only bring however many you need. And there are a couple other ways you can increase your carry weight, which will help. You can take the Thu augment, which is like level 6 of fighter. You'd have to level up fighter level 6 to get this, but then you can swap back. Finding the golden beetles all over the map. You can use the map we have for that, or you can just keep an eye out for them. There are rings that increase your equip load, which is good. So those are all things that you can do to further increase your carry weight so that you're not constantly bogged down and you're not heavy all the time. The heavier you are, the more stamina you consume and the slower your stamina recovery. So you don't want to try and be heavy. So that's something that you can work on. And it goes without saying that whenever you go into town, you should be dumping all your crafting materials and anything excess, any armor, any gear you picked up into your bank every time before you go back out. That way you're the lightest possible when you leave, because you're going to pick up lots of stuff when you're exploring, and you should just get in the habit of swinging by there and dumping stuff. And there are a few ways to increase your stamina too, so that when you're out running on the landscape or you're in combat, you don't run out as quickly. There are a couple rings that increase your stamina. You could theoretically equip those if you're having trouble with stamina management. Obviously, leveling up increases your stamina, so the more you level up, the more stamina you'll have. The endurance augment of Archer will give you more stamina. I think it's 150 stamina if I'm not mistaken. So those are all really good to have, and they can make your experience better. They may not increase your damage, but they might make it so that you're more effective in combat and also have a better time outside of combat. And you do spend, about equal amounts in both. And then some things that improve your stamina recovery so that when you're low on stamina, you get it back quicker. There are rings that can do this. The Ring of Quickening will increase your stamina recovery by 10%. Exalted Augment from Mage will increase your stamina recovery by 10%, but this is like Mage level 9. It's quite an investment to get that, but it's really good. Ultimate Skill from Mage will also increase your stamina recovery if it's used. And the Celerity spell from Mage is not bad to slot as well, because not only does this increase your action speed, but also your run speed. So you run faster when you're in and outside of combat, so you cover more ground, which makes your stamina more effective. It's getting you further. And just a few other tips as well that can help with stamina management and stamina and equip weight in general is that when you're running, stow your weapon. You consume more stamina when you're running. When you have your weapon out. It may not seem like it at first glance to you, but it's true. So make sure you put your weapon away when you don't need it when you're running. That will help. Upgrading your gear, except using the Dwarven upgrade, will lighten the weight of the equipment that you're upgrading, and Wormfire reduces the weight of an item by half. Wormfire is the last upgrade that you do at the Bay Way Shrine. So if you want to make yourself even lighter, make sure you upgrade your gear and then you get that Wormfire upgrade. You can get the crystals for that by farming drakes in the game. That is a really good way to lower your equip weight. So if you have like a heavy set of armor on your fighter or your warrior or something, or any class, reducing that in half can be really strong. The Athleticism augment from Mystic Spearhand makes it so that you consume 10% less stamina when you're running. This is really good. If you're having trouble, managing your stamina outside of combat, you find that's really annoying. This is a good way to help improve that scenario for you. And Dynamism from Warfare is really good as well. It is rank 9 on Warfare, so this is one that, you're not going to use right away, and it's one that you should probably have your sights set on, but it's not something that you're going to, have like day one. But that reduces the amount of stamina strain that you have from equipment. So, like, basically makes your equip load affect you less than it would if you didn't have it. So that's a really good one to have, too, if you need some stamina management, and that's one for maybe long term you should have an eye on. So those are some things that you can do that can really help your gameplay experience. I mentioned in our previous video too, but I'll mention it here again, is make sure that you put your port crystals down in good locations and that you're buying Ferrystones regularly. The vendors in town restock their Ferrystones every few days, so you can keep buying them, and you're not going to run out if you keep buying them, especially if you're farming everything, killing everything while you're out exploring the landscape. And the other thing is, if you have the Fugacity augment from Trickster, this reduces the amount that you get tacked when you're, using your ox cart or when you're camping. And that can make your life a lot easier too. There's nothing more annoying than getting your cart destroyed while you're fast traveling, or even just having to deal with a fight every time you're trying to go somewhere on an ox cart. So I highly recommend getting that one, and that can make your experience a lot better and just ease some of the frustration that this game can cause. And one last tip that I'll leave you with that can alleviate a ton of frustration in this game is that sometimes you're trying to find a particular NPC. Maybe they're a Meister and you're trying to get their skill, or maybe you want to get reputation with them, or you're trying to trigger a quest line or whatever, and you know where they should be. You've seen it on the wiki, you've seen it in the game many times, them being there, but they're not there, and you've gone and rested and come back and they still aren't there. What I would suggest doing is go to where you know they should be, where you think they should be, save and exit your game and reload, and they usually reappear there. I don't know why this works, but it seems to, and it has saved me a ton of frustration finding NPCs, and even like certain enemies that you want to spawn. For instance, if they aren't spawning and you know the enemy is supposed to spawn, you can try that and see if it works. That works for me a lot, and it can just make your experience better. So that kind of wraps up my video on like how to reduce your frustration in Dragon's Dogma 2. These are things that, I think a lot of players have learned by now, but maybe some of these things they didn't know still, and that can help them out even further. Once you tackle this aspect of the game and you've really learned how to manage this, the game gets a lot more fun in my experience. So I hope you found this useful. And as always, if you have other tips, things I didn't mention that can help with people's improving their stamina and their time in this game, make sure to leave them in the comments. And if you have questions, leave them there as well, and I will try and answer them as soon as I can.